Welcome to a faculty feature episode of Design Darshan. I'm your host Nithiesh.
I'm Gauri, and today we're here with Khushboo and Lakshmi. I would like to begin and ask you guys to introduce yourself to the audience.
Hi, thank you for having us, Gauri and Nithiesh. It's wonderful to have this conversation with you. I'm Lakshmi. I'm a faculty here at the BITS Design School. So my interests lie in design research, design inclusion, and overall interdisciplinarity and transdisciplinarity in design. So my curiosity primarily lies in bringing in aspects of other disciplines into design practice, and also the magnitude of change that design can achieve when it's applied to other fields. So that's primarily what I'm pursuing right now.
Okay, interesting. So hi, and thank you so much for having me here, especially with my colleague Lakshmi. I'm also one of the faculty members here, and I think what defines me is somebody who's constantly curious about a lot of things which are outside of the traditional design spectrum. I love to constantly put my foot into areas where design has not been thought of or has not had agency so far over the past 11 years. And primarily, or let's say recently, I've delved into the business and economics part of where design can play a role. And therefore, it led me to also develop interest and, let's say, give back, or let's say, inspire students to also look at design as a profession from the same perspective. And therefore, I came to BITS. And that's where my aim is, to make sure that the students or the designers of today or tomorrow are able to think at and look at design from similar perspectives.
So, looking at design as a profession and students coming into design as a profession, even until college started, my perception of design was so vastly different from what I've learned it to be through the semester at BITS. So, what do you think that the average perception of design is in India? And why do you think that comes from?
So I would say that the usual perception comes and springs from the traditional way from where design actually came in as a profession. So it actually came to serve industrial revolution. And therefore, or maybe sadly, in today's world, when you look at the news headlines, or when you look at the news today, you very rarely find, let's say, a headline that says that designers ended up rescuing or saving, let's say, so many billion or thousands of people's time in terms of by helping them to have a better wayfinding to the airport, or by allowing them or facilitating them through not missing their flights or their trains. Sadly, are those things spoken about, and I think largely because design is invisible, like what Don Norman says. That's the reason why there is a very skewed perception or very limited perception of what design can do or what designers do today. Yeah, is what I feel. What about you?
So I think traditionally we do, I think excellently said, by the way. And I think traditionally what I've come across when it comes to discussions around design is often we talk about physical product design, and now the conversations moved a little bit to digital product design. However, I think we need to move this perception beyond this. As we all know, I think in design schools, is also we need to move to thinking about service design and system design, which are prevalent ideas of thought, which do exist in perhaps other countries, but it's yet to see popularity or mainstream discussion in India. Interestingly, we had one of the pioneers of service design visitors last semester, who's Andrea from RMIT, and she spoke about how she said, I think there's something called service design so many years ago, and today people acknowledge it. And I think we are on the brink of something like that in India, where our definition and understanding of design changes. And I think that responsibility lies with all of us, is to kind of redefine the industry and kind of bring in fresh ideas and thoughts so that we could create a better impact.
Correct. From the perspective of students, I think especially we've just been known to understand what's interior design, what's graphic design and product design. And I don't think we've ever seen beyond that until we joined here at BITS. And it's just opened my eyes in such a way that design is about problem solving, and it's beyond just the problems in your computer. It's so much more. I think you would agree.
Yeah. So like even when we were doing our projects in these modules, like I'm telling my parents, like, I'm doing this in geopolitics, I'm working, about borders, and my parents are like, is this design? Like they're very confused about it. Like when I talk to relatives, they're like, oh, fashion design, graphic design, like what are you doing? And I'm like, no, I'm not, I'm doing design, right? And there's a difference, I think, between how we're learning that here and how it's being taught, maybe even elsewhere in India. But again, so coming to that point, how do you think, I guess BIT specifically is doing it a little bit differently? How do you think that, this perception of design can be changed for the better? That design education can promote this kind of thought of design?
Right. So I think what struck me really as unique about BITS, and which also motivated me to join, was that there was a focus on transdisciplinary education and also interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary models. So what this essentially means is that design is not looked at as a silo where the designer sits separately, designs some things and everybody consumes that design, but that design actually becomes embedded in various industries. So be it in IT industry, or be it in healthcare industry, or be it in social welfare, be it in public transit infrastructure. So various places where design can make a difference, and the design becomes embedded as a part of a larger system. Therefore, when this happens, we also need to respond and reciprocate to other disciplines with other people who are working in different professions. And I think this is a shift that is very important because this helps us really make a real change in the world and real impact. So whatever perspective we are looking at it from, be it from a market economics perspective, be it from a climate change sustainability perspective, I think that way it can have a real impact, and it's really important for us to start thinking about it. So far I think we have been focusing also a lot on vocational, but I think now even concepts of like design research gaining popularity, or ideas of transdisciplinary design, I think these are areas where there is real potential for the industry to transform.
Yeah, I think I'm completely in agreement with what Lakshmi said, and just would want to simplify it by also giving an example. Let's say in today's world, where I see that I think what your generation would be doing or should be doing, from my personal experiences, where I feel like the kind of impact and the visibility that you're talking about that should come across. I think it's like designers do not work in silos anymore, or should not and must not work in those kind of cubicles anymore. They should be trained to be able to, let's say, talk to an artisan or a farmer in the morning with in the same respect of, let's say, the same problem. In the afternoon, they might be talking to a CFO with respect to the same issue. In the evening, they might be hearing, let's say, a teenager complaining about or ranting about a lot of other things. And the capacity building of that designer should be done over the span of such programs should be such that at the end of the day, the designer is able to provide a solution that addresses all of them. Correct. Basically come up with something which is non-exclusive and inclusive, and is able to mindfully cater to these needs. And to be able to do that, I think what Lakshmi mentioned about the aspect of interdisciplinarity and transdisciplinarity comes in. It doesn't come in by just having, let's say, 1 or 2 lectures or modules in a semester where you learn how to do your finance, or you learn how to do what is economics, etc. It comes from integrating and weaving it into every module of design, whether it is developing a skill set or a muscle to think in a certain way, whether it is to be able to even converse and talk meaningfully to a CFO, to a farmer, to an artisan, to a teenager with respect to the same problem. So having that holistic understanding comes only when the curriculum and the program is designed to be able to facilitate that. I think that's what brought me to BITS.
And I think I would just like to add on to one more thing. So, yes, BITS is doing this, but we're also hoping that more and more schools will adopt this approach, where there is a project-based approach to a transdisciplinary or interdisciplinary learning, and it's not limited to, let's say, a multidisciplinary mode where I'm just taking electives from other disciplines. And hopefully, we'll see more and more schools adopt it, so we are able to actually create this change in the profession.
And I mean, I would definitely agree, and would also say that it's not that the other organization or institutions do not want to do that or are not able to think in that direction. I think there are systemic issues where implementation of those plans may not happen, but we've also seen that many institutions through different programs do try to integrate that. And therefore, we see design educators coming from the same institution, learned from the same, and are able to deliver programs like this. So it's not that it never existed. Maybe it's difficult for certain ecosystems to bring it in practice immediately.
Something that was said in class that like really stayed with me in terms of what design can do. Design is like the translation. It's the translator between multiple professions. So we sit and we understand stakeholders and we translate them for each and every one, so that we like collectively understand the requirements and needs of each other. And I think that's what unites designers and the other stakeholders that are involved.
Yes, so I mean, that is again what we did in design methods designing. When we went out, we talked to a lot of stakeholders and we kind of brought back. Again, another question that I had is, so we did talk about these, you talked about these transdisciplinarity and how BITS is giving that to us and how we're trying to bring that change overall. But the fact of the matter is, when we graduate, a lot of the designers we are working with will not have this kind of transdisciplinary mindset that we do. They might have just, studied graphic design for 4 years. And, a lot of them aren't even design graduates. A lot of them are doing online courses, or a lot of them are engineers who found UX on the side. And a lot of UX designers are just computer scientists, right? So how can we, work with them? And maybe they don't have that same mindset as us, but how can we give them that mindset, or maybe help them work in this better manner, right, that we're talking about?
So I think what you can do to facilitate that kind of conversation or working environment where you feel that you may feel that yes, you're equipped to do that because you trained here rigorously and deliberately from that perspective, but that doesn't mean that somebody who's taken up design as a career or as a profession may not be capable. I think the capability is always underlying, and therefore there is this system of interviewing, portfolio viewing, etc. When you're giving your entrance examinations. So I feel like that skill is there. It just requires the environment. So maybe as designers or as colleagues or as team members, if you can create that environment within your team to be able to do that, I think it's going to be an excellent way. I mean, think of it as a design project for yourself. So
how can that environment be created though?
Yeah, so I think firstly would be something to understand that you're not competing with a colleague. Especially as a designer. Every designer is there for a particular intent, and it may need not necessarily be always their own professional and personal growth. It could be, let's say, how can you as a team completely grow together? Because what we've learned so far is that design cannot, or a designer cannot function as a solo designer. There's no such thing as a solo designer. So the moment you're able to establish that confidence in them, that, okay, you're not a threat to their career progression. In fact, you're somebody through whom the career can progress. Yeah. I think 90% of your job is done there.
That's a really interesting way to put it, and I agree. I think just to give you perhaps an